Hey, Kyle is wonderful here again with another wrestling review. This time it's WWE Smackdown from June 24th, 2022. And this is going to be live from Austin, Texas. And of course, we've got a lot to get into. We've got Money in the Bank is only 8 days away when this was recorded. It's almost midnight now, so almost exactly a week away. Next Saturday, July 2nd, will be the Money in the Bank pay-per-view, taken away from the stadium show because they couldn't sell enough tickets to a arena show. Then we got people pulling out like Roman Reigns and stuff like that. So trickle down effect there, but it should still be a pretty decent pay-per-view. Those big multi-man ladder matches are always fun, and we get two, one with the men, one with the women. So that's pretty exciting. And we've got SummerSlam already being promoted. We've got the main event already signed for SummerSlam with the big shocking return of last week's SmackDown of Brock Lesnar at the end. Of course, a lot of people groaned, even me, who I'm a huge Brock Lesnar fan. It just shows that WWE has no faith in anybody on the roster other than Brock Lesnar, because it was another stadium show for SummerSlam. They just had to show face and go from the stadium show to an arena show at the last moment for the previous event. So they want to make sure they sell out this stadium show in Nashville for SummerSlam. And they definitely hit the panic button when Cody got hurt, and apparently has no faith in Bobby Lashley, or even I think they could have built up Seth Rollins one-on-one versus Roman Reigns for SummerSlam, and that could have sold out, especially if you put other big matches on the card. So anyway, we'll kind of talk about some of that as we go. I talk a little bit more in depth about all of that on the flagship show, the weekly podcast, Wonderful Wrestling Podcast. That was out earlier today, and that will come out every Friday. But otherwise, on this channel, I have all the reviews from everything from WWE, AEW, MLW, NWA, Impact, and New Japan Pro Wrestling. So I make sure and do all of those individually. You can go find all the reviews yourself, but I do the overview and the news and the stuff in general in the weekly podcast. So go check that out. That came out earlier today if you were liking what I was talking about at the beginning of this. But yeah, like I said, SmackDown is live tonight from Austin, Texas. And we start out with a really, really long recap that I just fast forward through, of course, because I watched it all last week. But it was showing all the Riddle versus Roman Reigns in the main event stuff. And then it had, of course, the Brock Lesnar coming out after Roman beat Riddle and confronting Roman, trying to shake his hand, giving Roman the F5, and then the Usos both getting in the F5. So we got all that recap, and then when it's done, Cole tells us that it'll be Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar in the main event of SummerSlam in a last man standing match. So we've known that news literally came out right when SmackDown ended last week over on social media. They were like, it's Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns in a last man standing match at SummerSlam. So that wasn't news to me per se, but again, nobody really wanted another Roman versus Brock match. The WrestleMania match seemed so conclusive and such a ending to a long running rivalry that it doesn't really make sense in my mind. Okay, I do like at the very least they added the last man standing stipulation, as in like a last stand kind of last stand for Brock. If Brock loses this match straight up, then there literally can be no excuse to ever have them wrestle again. And a lot of people, the rumors are that are at least hopeful rumors. Maybe it's a lot of wishful thinking, but they think Rollins, who has qualified for the Money in the Bank, will win the Money in the Bank and potentially do something at SummerSlam. Either interject. A lot of people think he'll interject and make it a triple threat, just like he did at WrestleMania 31 with Roman and Brock. But the problem with that is last man standing match can't be a triple threat unless it's made an elimination style, or if Seth comes out, they could just make it a regular triple threat match rules at that point, which makes me think Seth probably won't be cashing in the middle of this match, but potentially after the match, or anyone else. Like it could be Omos that wins the damn title after winning the briefcase, and Omos comes out after the last man standing match. So we have no idea what's going to happen. As far as the latest with the Vince McMahon stuff, on Monday, right around before Raw, they fired John Laurinaitis, who was the right-hand man to Vince and also named in the scandal in the Wall Street Journal by name. And he was the head of talent relations, the main mediator between all the wrestlers and all the creative slash office people, such as Vince and Kevin Dunn and people like that. So he's out. Bruce Pritchard's in. Bruce Pritchard had been writing a lot and doing a lot of the storylines on Raw, SmackDown, as well as NXT. I don't think there's hardcore confirmed knowledge that Bruce Pritchard was running NXT, but if you know Bruce Pritchard's writing style and his tendencies, and like for example, his love of cult leaders, so turning Joe Gacy from a woke leftist into a cult leader just out of nowhere, tells you that Bruce Pritchard's fingerprints were all over NXT 2.0. And that might be it. I could see that being the thing that Bruce Pritchard's now not going to have enough time for is get putting his fingerprints all over the storylines on 2.0, and he'll have SmackDown and Raw as well as the head of talent relations, is basically the people that make sure there isn't a mutiny backstage. And right now tensions are at an all-time high, and everyone already knows and kind of has formed their opinions on Bruce Pritchard as he's coming into this new job. So I'm not going to say if they like him or dislike him, but you get what I'm saying. Like someone that they've known for a while, they've already formed opinions on him. So we'll see where all that goes. But the big rumors coming out Wednesday was that Triple H it can be confirmed that Triple H did make an appearance at the NXT Performance Center, and he simply said the words, "I'm back." Now, nobody knows if that meant like, "Oh, here I am. I'm back at the NXT after a long time for a visit," or "I'm back. I'm working," and blah, blah, blah. Or is he about to take over more of a hands-on role at NXT again? And we would all love that. As much as you might dislike the wrestler Triple H and maybe hated his reign of terror and the despicable stuff with Booker T and then beating Booker T at WrestleMania, all that stuff aside, the things that Triple H did for the black and gold brand in NXT was legitimately great. Now you could just say he was just throwing money into all the best independent talent, but yeah, anybody could do that. The real trick is the convincing Mr. Vince McMahon to allow you to do that. So somehow, maybe through his marriage with Stephanie and smooth talking and all kinds of, I'm sure Triple H really had to work his butt off on so many things that Vince wanted that Triple H didn't really want to do, but just did all that stuff in order to um, give us this great NXT. Now that they took NXT away from Triple H, of course, some of that had to do with the health scare, and we almost lost Triple H last year with a heart. Um, I think they're calling it a heart attack, but it was a cardiac event, is what they're actually calling it. I don't think it was a heart attack, or maybe it was, and they don't want to call it that. So, of course, we always got to be a little bit wary about it because we don't want Triple H to just go back to NXT and work himself to the bone again and stress out and have another heart problem. But all of that aside, let's just get back to SmackDown. But yeah, there's a lot that could come up, but it is official last man standing match in the main event of SummerSlam. So nobody was looking forward to Roman versus Brock, but if it's at least got that stipulation. So the first thing we see after all of that, Drew McIntyre comes out to some big cheers, and they show us how last week Adam Pearce added Drew and Sheamus to the Money in the Bank match, which if you remember on my review last week, I was like, it makes no sense. How could Drew and Sheamus, like literally Pierce came out and said, well, neither of you qualified. And then he ended it by saying, so because of that, you have both qualified. And it's just like, what? None of that makes sense. So we get to this week. It's still a little weird, but they made it make a little bit more sense per se. But I also didn't like where they went with it as well. So I'll explain as we go here. But yeah, Drew McIntyre's out in the ring, and then Adam Pearce, like I said, they showed how Adam Pearce did that last week. And then they show a graphic. So far, it's Drew, Sheamus, Omos, and Seth Rollins that have qualified. And then either tonight, either Sami Zayn or Shinsuke Nakamura will join them. They have a qualifying match tonight. And then after that, there'll be 2 spots remaining. So going into the final week before Money in the Bank, there will be 2 remaining open spots in the men's Money in the Bank. And for the women, there's 1 more open spot, which everybody thinks Becky will get it on Raw. And I assume that I also agree with that. So Drew's out there, like I said, and he starts talking about how he said when he first got drafted to SmackDown that he would start from the bottom and work himself up the ladder. Well, now he'll finish the job by climbing the ladder at Money in the Bank. Sheamus interrupts, and he's got Butch and Ridge Holland with him. Sheamus makes fun of Austin, Texas, and Drew. Before he can say anything much, we hear, "Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Paul Heyman." So Paul Heyman comes down. Of course, we've got Sheamus and Drew McIntyre out there. So Paul Heyman comes down. He's got Adam Pearce behind him. Paul says that Roman Reigns will easily conquer Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam, but since it's a last man standing match, Roman might be vulnerable to a cash in after such a match, Paul says. Adam Pearce then says that he was a bit hasty, and when I put both of you in the ladder match last week, and points out that neither man won their qualifying match, which was my whole point last week. How did we ever get to the point where you were like, neither of you qualified? So because of that, both of you have qualified. Just makes everything look dumb. But anyway, they're pointing it out here, and Adam Pearce says his decision has been overruled. Neither Drew or Sheamus will be in the Money in the Bank ladder match, which then Sheamus and Drew are like all mad about that, of course. Then Adam says, however, Drew and Sheamus can both join the match if they can put their personal differences aside and are able to beat the undisputed tag team champions, the Usos, tonight. So the Usos come out on the stage, hold their titles up high, and we're told that match will be later. And we're also told Sami Zayn versus Shinsuke and the Money in the Bank qualifier will be next. So pause. Let's just take stock of what just happened. Well, I don't know if they realized how stupid they sounded last week or if this was the whole plan, which in case makes them look stupid 2 weeks in a row. That part's neither here nor there. Let's talk about how there's only two options that can come out of this match that they just set up. It's either Sheamus and Drew win and they're back where they were before tonight started, but now we've just given the Usos the hottest tag team in the company, the undisputed tag team champions, losing to a team that doesn't even the team, they hate each other. So that's option number one. Option number two is the Usos win and Drew and Sheamus and this whole storyline. What did it ever mean? So kind of dumb all throughout. So that's going to be the main event. We'll find out later, but it's really dumb to me. Either you're going to beat your tag team champions or it's just going to be exactly like it was before the night started, in which or like I mean, I got a little bit backwards, but they should have never been in the ladder match to begin with after last week, or they should have just had another qualifying match and one of them could have qualified. So this whole story's got me a little thinking too hard when I should just be enjoying the show kind of deal, like pointing out the inconsistencies with the storyline. But I did like that they had him come out, and of course we can assume that Paul Heyman is using his backstage stroke and the head of the tables stroke and all of that to reverse this decision by Adam Pearce, which Paul Heyman had easy grounds to go to whoever I guess he would go to Stephanie. She's the new CEO, and he would say, look at this guy. He went out there and said, none of you qualified, so you both qualified. Can you believe that? He should have that taken away. So I think if they were going to do that, they should have just taken it away and then just keep Drew and Sheamus out of the match. And I don't know, have them fight each other at Money in the Bank in a hardcore match or something. Who cares? Because it's like we said, it's probably going to be Seth Rollins. Drew McIntyre pretty much already has his ticket. He called his shot and that he wants Roman Reigns in the main event of Clash at the Castle. He can get that match without needing the Money in the Bank. So did we ever really need Drew in it to begin with? But then it goes all the way back to, I guess they're not trying to sell tickets for Money in the Bank anymore. So yeah, you don't need Drew McIntyre in the Money in the Bank match. And if you really wanted him on the card, he can fight Sheamus or Butch or Ridge Holland or a 1-on-3 handicap match. So all that's kind of dumb. Like I said, they told us next it was going to be Sami Zayn versus Shinsuke in the Money in the Bank qualifier. Jobber Shinsuke is already in the ring. So when we get back from the break, so no entrance by Shinsuke. That was a little jarring. It really tells me how low on the. Remember when they teased that when there was nobody left for Roman Reigns to wrestle against and defend against, that they teased for a couple of weeks that it was going to be Shinsuke, and then they just quickly dropped that. We've got a little bit of Shinsuke story where he helped out Riddle. And then immediately Shinsuke was then dropped to the background. So here's Shinsuke again. He's in the Money in the Bank qualifier at least. He got a qualifying match. They could have put like Shanky in there or something, and Shinsuke wouldn't even have been in it. But that's where I write here, wow, is Sammy actually going to win this match? Which that does bring up a whole lot of stories. If you want to make if you have Sami Zayn win the contract, and now Roman Reigns would literally make him an official member of the bloodline, because Roman Reigns wouldn't want that briefcase to fall in the wrong hands, or he would want Sami Zayn to be his best friend so he never cashes it in type deal. So that could be a fun story if they choose to go that route and they don't want to give it to Seth. Again, I think Seth Rollins is someone that he could rack up a few wins and just become number one contender without a briefcase. Whereas a Sami Zayn, he's not the kind of character that's gonna rack up a bunch of wins in a row to become number one contender. And it works a lot better with the story, I think. So having Sami with the briefcase is probably my number one choice. And you can probably tell, spoiler alert, who wins this match with everything I'm saying, with the jobber Shinsuke already in the ring and all that stuff. So anyway, before Sami can get out to the ring, Kayla Braxton interviews him in the gorilla position. Sami's all pumped up to win the match, but then Kayla says, well, if you cash it in, or if you win the briefcase, you're going to cash in on Brock or Roman, right? And this makes Sami stumble over his words. He's like, no, not like that. And then Sami Zayn's music hits, so he just runs away without answering anymore. Right when this match starts, Shinsuke gets a nice armbar on Sami right as the bell rings. I like that opening. Cole brings up the long rivalry between these two. Remember, Sami beat Shinsuke for the Intercontinental title not that long ago. And then Shinsuke does some damage outside of the ring and hopes to win by a count out, but Sami was doing that damage. But Shinsuke's able to get in at a count of 9, so Sami looking for the easy win. Pat brings up Shinsuke losing his friend Boogs, so good to hear Boogs' name every now and then. That's kind of how they need to do with Cody, and not have every single person that comes across Seth be like, I'm gonna do this for Cody, man. Can you imagine if we get I'm gonna do this for Cody for the next like 25 straight episodes of Raw, and then Cody comes out on the 26th week to make his return? It would be so bad, but here's how you do it. Like, we haven't heard Rick Boog's name on WWE television for at least 6 weeks, 7 weeks, 8 weeks. So maybe they brought it up when Riddle was teaming with Shinsuke, but that would have been the last time. But I like that they remind us that he's a character on this show. Anyway, we get a big Nakamura chant from the Austin crowd, and we go to an ad break. So Austin loving themselves some Nakamura. I know Austin's a very NXT black and gold kind of town, and I'm pretty sure Nakamura wrestled in Austin before for NXT. When we get back from break, Sami Zayn's in control, and Cole notes that both men have been in Money in the Bank match before, but neither of them won. I like when they give us notes like that. And Shinsuke counters a middle rope dive with a big roundhouse kick, but Sami is able to battle back with a picture-perfect, nasty-looking Michinoku driver. We see a lot of people in WWE and wrestling in general doing Michinoku drivers nowadays, but man, this Sami Zayn Michinoku driver on Shinsuke looked insane. It basically looked like Shinsuke got dropped right on his head, but I know that it was completely safe because they're both super veterans that just love to do that style where it makes it look like you're dropping them on their head. But great move there. Wow. Sami sidesteps a Kinshasa attempt and into a pinning combination, so Shinsuke has to kick out of that. Sami has his feet on the ropes, or no, but the ref sees it and stops his count. So at this point, the referee counts 3, 1, 2, 3, and Shinsuke got a pin on Sami, but Sami had his foot under the rope, and the referee had to stop. Shinsuke gets another kick to change momentum now, and he goes for a Kinshasa, but Sami rolls out of the ring. Nakamura follows Sami out there and hits another Kinshasa, and takes a little bit for him to get Sami in the ring. He's kind of dead weight. By the time Shinsuke joins Sami in the ring, Sami's already on his feet. Haluva kick, 1, 2, 3 out of nowhere. And your winner is Sami Zayn. So wow, not only does Shinsuke lose, not only does Shinsuke not get an entrance, but he hits his finisher twice, and the guy gets right up 10, 15 seconds later, like it was nothing. So I hope Shinsuke can go to some other company pretty soon here. I know I talked about this on the podcast, where it's good for people, especially when they beat up their bodies as much as like a Shinsuke Nakamura did throughout his entire career, to finally get that big money paycheck, and then you can kind of take it easy and not kill your body. But there has to be some kind of middle ground here where we could still get the Shinsuke that we love without him having to kill his body every night. And like I said, they did that really nice Michinoku driver where it looked like he landed on his head. So he probably took a really hard shot on his shoulders, which still can't feel good. So and of course, if you slip that up any little bit, you're landing on your neck. So he did he's doing a little bit of it here and there, but man, this just isn't Shinsuke Nakamura. I'd much prefer him to see him in any company, even Impact. New Day's music hits, and after all this, so and they told us well, Sammy's now joined Seth and Omos because remember at this point Drew and Sheamus have been taken out, and they remind us that later tonight Drew and Sheamus, if they beat the Usos, can be added back to the match. But right now it was Sammy, Seth, and Omos. And then after that, the New Day's music hits. So Kofi and Xavier are out to some big cheers. And then after the ad break, it'll be a rematch, we're told, from last week. New Day versus Jinder and Shanky, which I'm sure why would they even announce that? That's weird. Especially for the fact that when we get back, there isn't even really a match. So when we get back, Jinder and Shanky have just made it to the ring on their entrance. New Day says, hold on over the mic, like, hold up, hold up, hold on. And Xavier says, last week we beat y'all clean as soap. So bringing up a clean win here, breaking kayfabe. Kofi says nobody wants to watch this match, which is true. Xavier says New Day doesn't do rematch after rematch after rematch, which is funny because we had to sit through 30 New Day versus Brawling Brutes matches. It's funny, but I'm not laughing kind of deal. Like, yeah, it really was. Those were terrible after about 15 of them, and then we still had 15 to go. But they they say most importantly, Jinder, you took something from us last week. We all wanted to see the skyscraping Shanky dance. So Kofi asks the crowd if they want to see Shanky dance. They chant yes, yes, yes. Kofi starts playing the trombone, but then the New Day's music comes on, and then Shanky dances. So Jinder tells Shanky to stop. Shanky shoves Jinder, so Jinder just leaves. He's not screw this kind of deal. I'm over it all. I'm out of here. Kofi says on the microphone, go ahead, just leave like you did with 3MB, which was unnecessary. Damn. What Jinder do to you? And Pat even like laughed about the 3MB comment. So all of a sudden we get so Jinder leaves and we got skyscraping Shanky dancing in the ring and trombones playing and Kofi's probably dancing too. And all of a sudden you hear that the horn, the Viking horn that usually starts the Viking Raiders music, but there's no music, it's just the horn. And then a few seconds later the horn plays again. And you see a picture of the Viking Raiders, like just a picture of them, not live or anything, on the Titantron, the big screen. And then the horn plays again, and all of a sudden fireworks go off, and the picture of them on the Titantron switches to a close up of their face, and now they've got face paint on. And now all of a sudden the Viking Raiders come out from behind, attack Shanky and the New Day. They are heels. They've got furry boots on. They've got face paint. And apparently that horn and I laughed so hard with the horn was already kind of funny, but then the pyro makes a big loud pop and the Titantron screen turns to like a close up of their face right as the pyro noise hits. It was I don't think that was the effect they were going for, so it was unironically funny. But yeah, Viking Raiders. I was wondering because obviously they're going to do something with the Viking Raiders. They for the last 2 weeks they've been rolling vignettes as if we've never seen the Viking Raiders before. So it was like coming soon, the Viking Raiders, as if they weren't on SmackDown already. And so that tells you they were going to come out probably with something different. And I was like, what are they? I was even expecting when we heard the horn. So what I was thinking even last week was with all these vignettes about the Viking Raiders, I'm like, oh my God, are they going to shave their beards and become part of the Maximum Male Models? Or are they going to come out and start dancing with Shanky? So when we heard the Viking horn here and Shanky's already dancing in the ring, I'm like, oh Lord, the Viking Raiders are going to come out and dance. Aren't they? But nope, it's just a heel turn. They've got new face paint and furry boots, like I said. Nothing else really seems different other than the fact that they're heels now. So they beat up Shanky and the New Day. And I'm guessing that's our feud going forward. Your New Day feud is going to be with the Viking Raiders. So that'll probably be a match maybe on SmackDown next week. I doubt it'll be on Money in the Bank. But maybe they want to get the New Day out there. They haven't been on pay-per-view for a little bit. But yeah, I just laughed so hard when the fireworks went off, and then you see the Viking Raiders' faces pop up right as the fireworks go off. That was hilarious. But they got some pretty good heel heat from the crowd. The crowd was booing, although it might have been fake crowd noise. That might have been uh, a time that WWE really wanted to hammer home to the audience that these guys are getting over as heels, because but it was really just fake. I'm assuming it was fake, but people do like the New Day. So if you beat up the New Day, and I think people like Shanky's dancing too. So Eric and Ivar lay waste over New Day and Shanky, and that segment ends. So here's an interesting one. So it does seem like, if you remember, the SmackDown Women's Division has been decimated. Charlotte went over on vacation when their honeymoon and stuff, and then Sasha and Naomi walked out. So we were left with, before Lacey got there, I think there was 6 active people on the roster for the women's roster. And they were kind of trying to rebuild the roster. Remember those segments we got where it was like Shotzi and Aaliyah and stuff locking people in the back, and you see Shayna Baszler and Natty there, and you've got Raquel having match after match every week. She even already had a match against Ronda Rousey, who's the 6th one. And it seems like they finally decided they needed to do something with the women's division in SmackDown. So in the back, we see Sonya Deville walk into Adam Pearce's office. And we haven't seen Sonya Deville in like over a month. She makes fun of Adam Pearce for getting his decision reversed earlier with the whole Drew and Sheamus thing. That was pretty funny, because remember, she used to be authority partners with Adam Pearce, but she got removed a few months ago. And Sonya says that his treatment of the SmackDown women's division is even worse. Everyone's been saying how bad you've been with that, and that's funny. That's true, but I mean, Adam Pearce isn't really in charge, so they're just yelling at themselves or whatever. Like WWE writing a segment about yelling about that when they're really just yelling at themselves. Adam asks why she's here, so Sonya says she's been on SmackDown for weeks and hasn't been used, which, okay, that's news to me, but Raquel joins SmackDown and gets all my opportunities, Sonya says, and then plus Miss Crocodile Tears, Lacey Evans, hasn't been around for a year, and you give her a qualifying match. But nothing for me, Pierce. So Sonya says Adam's taking it out on Sonya because Adam failed as a wrestler. That was a low blow. And Adam gets mad, so tells Sonya she's in a match with Raquel and Lacey tonight, and it's going to be a handicap match. So remember what Sonya got fired for doing, putting people in situations just like this. So here's Adam Pearce doing the exact same thing with Sonya. So that could definitely go somewhere. We get a lot of Adam Pearce stuff tonight, between that and the whole Paul Heyman and the weirdness with the Sheamus and Drew. But yeah, I write down Sonya's definitely going to get Adam in trouble for this, isn't she? So in the ring already is Lacey and Raquel. That was quick. I think we went to an ad break, but yeah, no time for entrances tonight. So just Lacey and Raquel already in the ring. Sonya Deville comes out, and the crowd gives her some nice boos. Sonya looks to the back. Xia Li and Shayna Baszler, of all people, join Sonya to the ring. And we're told that if you remember, Xia Li and and Shayna are the 2 people that lost to Lacey and Raquel in the qualifiers. So basically, we're led to believe that Sonya went in the back and said, like, don't you hate those people for getting the qualifying spot over you? Let's go do something about it. So Sonya's showing that she's a great leader and able to rally troops. We saw this 2 months ago, right after WrestleMania, when she first lost her authority figure job. She rallied right after Carmella and Queen Zelina had broken up. Remember, Queen Zelina was like saying she wanted to sleep with Corey Graves or some weird stuff like that, and they broke up as a tag team. And then it was like a week or 2 later, Sonya Deville needed help in her match against Bianca Belair for the title, and here comes Carmella and Queen Zelina, which they had broken up before that, and we've never seen those 2 together ever since then. So Sonya Deville seemingly has this leadership quality where she can rally the troops behind her for any cause, and they don't have to necessarily even like the person or like them or whatever. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. So this is the second time we've seen it in 2 months where Sonya Deville is able to get any random people to gather around her cause. And maybe she's using the fact that she thinks that she's going to have power again soon. And she's telling these wrestlers, such as Carmella, Queen Zelina, Xylee, and Shayna Baszler, that I'll have power soon and I'll look out for you. So that could be what we're going with here, because remember, with the Adam Pearce putting her in a handicap match, he's doing exactly what got her fired for in the first place. So that could be what we're looking at here. But yeah, Lacey and Raquel were already in the ring. Sonya Deville's new music is terrible. I like her older one. Cole says that he pays attention and he had no idea that Sonya was on the SmackDown roster. So exactly, there was no ever mention of Sonya being on the SmackDown roster, and even Michael Cole's saying it here. He's like, I try to pay attention to these things, and I've no idea Sonya was on SmackDown. So Sonya clearly lying here, but again, for her to even be here, that means she already has some friend left over in the authority position. We don't know who or what, but. And we get some big palm strikes from Lacey and Sonya, um, not Sonya, but Shayna Baszler distracts Lacey from the outside so we can see what's happening here. Even though it's a handicap match, she's got a couple of people to distract on the outside. Sonya does. So that gave Sonya the advantage, and she hits Lacey with a pump kick, or her and Lacey both hit pump kicks at the same time. That was a pretty good spot. So Sonya and Lacey are both down, but Lacey's able to crawl over the tag, whereas Sonya didn't have anybody to tag. So Raquel takes it to Sonya now, hits a big slam, then a snake eyes. She goes for the Tejano bomb, but then again, Shayna Baszler distracts long enough for Sonya to get free. Lacey then gets tagged in, knocks out Sonya with the women's right, and gets the 1-2-3. So Xylee and Shayna Baszler rush the ring to attack Lacey and Raquel at this point. And even though Sonya gets back up, and there's all three heels have to retreat. So it was 3-on-2 and they still had to retreat, which made them look bad for sure. We know that Lacey and Raquel are definitely project they're working on. I would not be shocked. I would be upset, or at least disappointed if this happens, but I won't be shocked if Lacey Evans is the one that wins the briefcase. They really want to hammer home this new Lacey Evans character. And don't forget, Money in the Bank is on July 2nd, so it's all going to be rah rah USA. Here we go, and it might be Lacey Evans winning that briefcase, which I don't think a lot of people are going to like, but just prepare yourself. In the back, the Street Profits are back on SmackDown. So if you remember, they showed up to SmackDown last week, but they were only in a backstage segment. So that might even have been pre-taped from Raw, and they weren't even there. But they are here officially this time. Street Profits are yelling, and they pass Los Lotharios, who have a woman with them, a one woman for two guy ratio. So the Street Profits just yell "Sheesh" and keep walking. And then they pass by Drew Gulak, who's doing pull-ups on two different ladders at the same time. Street Profits call him Uncle Drew, and then they keep walking. They run into Madcap Moss, and they're hyped to meet him. They tell Moss that they love what he did to Corbin, and then Angelo Dawkins tells a terrible joke, and Moss and Montez just stare at Dawkins as this crazy segment ends. So I like segments like that where you don't know what you're gonna get, and Street Profits have enough charisma to pull off any backstage segment you put them in. They got that same ability like a KO does, or Chad Gable and Sami Zayn. You could put them in the most asinine situations where anybody else, it's just going to look like the cheesiest, cringiest thing ever, but those guys can pull it off. Now we go back to the ring. Ronda Rousey's music hits, and I'm like, oh, here we go. And then I look, and then it's Ronda Rousey. She's got a baby stroller with her, so I'm like, oh, so is Ronda going to show off her baby or something? And then as Ronda gets a little bit closer to the camera, I'm like, oh, that's not Ronda. That is Natalya dressed up as Ronda Rousey, complete with the crazy eye makeup. The hair did up just like Ronda. She's got the Ronda outfit on with the music, and she's carrying baby. She's pushing a baby stroller. So the crowd boos once they realize after they had cheered for the music, and we go to an ad break. So that was a really funny way to go to the ad break for sure. When we get back, Nettie tells a whole promo as if she was Ronda. Unfortunately, she didn't do it with Ronda's lack of excitement. So if Natty really wanted to cut in the Ronda, she should have talked like this and been like, yeah. And then my mom, she was telling me, like I would really, that I was breaking arms and yeah, and so if Natty did it like that, it would have been even more funny. But this was funny. She's like saying stuff like, "There's no way the armbar is better than the sharpshooter. I may as well tap out now and just hand the title to Natalia. I'll just retire and push my stroller and leave while I can because I'm the saddest woman on the planet." I like that line. Ronda comes out and says, "Is that you, Natty? I didn't recognize you without your rack out," which I laughed at. And then Ronda drops a little mini pipe bomb here and she says, "Whew, I shouldn't laugh because it is a touchy situation." But Ronda says, "I didn't mutilate my body like you to appease men's beauty standards." Whew. And like I said, I shouldn't laugh at that. I'm sure Natty doesn't want to have done all that plastic surgery and stuff. We all know that Natty is like the oldest person on the roster and that she had already gotten like breast implants and some work done. And then it seemingly seems like WWE told her, allegedly, of course, we don't know if this is true, but allegedly told Natty, we can either fire you or you can go get a bunch of plastic surgery to look younger. So it's a little harsh that the same company that told Natty to go get plastic surgery then has Ronda cut a joke about it, or whatever you want to call it. Not really a joke, but a jab or a burn. So that was a little awkward, but it was kind of funny at the same time because Natty could have said no. So I don't know what the right answer is on that one. But I did like the "I didn't recognize you without your rack" outline. That they should have just kept it at that, to be honest. Because like I said, it was probably WWE that made it was either you're fired or you can go get the plastic surgery, which isn't something we should now be laughing about. Anyway, Ronda is probably the least charismatic person ever. Like, no joke. Ronda goes to attack Natty, but Natty's able to use the baby stroller as a weapon. So I'm getting clear Gene Snitsky vibes out of this segment. Unfortunately, no punting of baby dolls into the crowd. One of the most insane moments that ever happened on Raw. If you never watched that moment live, you wouldn't understand, but everyone legitimately thought that Snitsky had a real baby in his arms for like when he punted it into the crowd. Like once he like did it and you saw it in the air, like you knew it was a doll, but there was like this split second where everyone watching was like, "Wait a second, what?" So I got a little bit of Snitsky vibes from Ronda getting hit with the baby stroller here, which was hilarious back in the day. So Natty bails as Ronda gets the upper hand and runs away. So pretty funny segment all in all. I think that's a Money in the Bank match. So remember they were saying that, oh, Ronda might be hurt. Remember when I think it was 2 weeks ago, Natty had a sneak attack on Ronda and put her in the sharpshooter for a long extended period. And they were like, "Oh, is Ronda going to be able to fight at Money in the Bank?" But yeah, I mean, we haven't heard anything about any injuries or anything since then. So it does look like Ronda will be at Money in the Bank. I was thinking maybe since they pulled Roman Reigns off the Money in the Bank card, maybe they'll do the same with Ronda and just keep her for SummerSlam. But I do like that they're having the title be defended at Money in the Bank. And Ronda's definitely a prime candidate for somebody to cash their Money in the Bank briefcase on that exact night. So nobody's really been talking about Ronda and the briefcase. I assume Bianca is going to at least hold her title until SummerSlam, where she'll probably have. The rumors are it's going to be Becky versus Bianca at SummerSlam, and I'm cool with that as long as Bianca wins. Like the she can definitely say she's avenged the 26-second loss if that happens. So in the meantime, over on the SmackDown side, I think it would be a good idea to have whoever they choose to win the briefcase beat Ronda at Money in the Bank the same night. And then Ronda's much better as chasing the title than she is at having the title. So I don't care who it is. Shotzi would be my pick. You could have Shotzi win the briefcase in a crazy, like have her do a bunch of crazy dives that she loves to do in that ladder match anyway. She loves a good hardcore match. So Shotzi could really get over with the crowd by doing some crazy dives and stuff, winning the briefcase, and then maybe beating Ronda later on that night where Ronda had a tough match with Natty. You could play it two different ways at that point. You could keep Shotzi a heel, or you could go babyface. What I would do is have Shotzi win the briefcase, win the title in underhanded tactics, continue to stay a heel, maybe have her defend the title against Ronda at SummerSlam, Shotzi that is, and she could win by like running away and like cheating and poking the eyes and getting the ref hit down and maybe using a weapon and stuff like that, and have Shotzi retain at SummerSlam over Ronda, and then have them fight again. But somewhere throughout, Ronda convinced Shotzi to like stop being I almost said the P word, but stop being a like scaredy cat and fight me one-on-one, and then that could be what the catalyst for the Shotzi face turn, where she's just like, all right, yeah, I'll fight you one-on-one. And if you want, you could, if you really want, if you're in the business of making new stars, at that point you have Shotzi actually win the match where she fights one-on-one, no cheating whatsoever, clean victory, Shotzi versus Ronda. You've now got Shotzi as your face champion. You could even have those two form a tag team in the future. Now that Ronda would say, like, even though she lost the Shotzi, they could be like, oh well, you really did do, you were a woman of your word and you fought straight up and you beat me, so I respect you. And they could form an on again off again tag team when they need to, when they're not wrestling in singles. See how easy this stuff is, how you can build new stars. I didn't have to stay up all night thinking about that either. It's just how things come and go. Like, you can just picture how things would go. But no, they're not really in the business of making new stars. So that's not what's going to happen for sure. It's probably going to be Lacey Evans, like we said. In the back, Megan Moran is with Sheamus and Drew McIntyre, and they argue amongst each other and curse each other out. Drew says he'll beat the Usos all by himself. Just stay out of my way. And Sheamus says it's my time to be champ. So definitely not getting along here. Man, I almost forgot this next thing happened. So Ludwig Kaiser's out next to introduce Gunther. And next, Gunther will defend against Ricochet, who's using his rematch clause. Gunther won the title from Ricochet a few weeks ago on SmackDown. And when we come back from the break, Ricochet's out to some huge cheers. And Ricochet starts strong, but Gunther takes control right after that. Gunther locks in 3 submissions in a row, transitioning from each one. And then a springboard is attempted by Ricochet, but Gunther catches it. He tries to hit a German suplex, but Ricochet's able to backflip and land on his feet. Ricochet hits 3 consecutive big high knee lifts. They looked way better than the one that Elias / Ezekiel's been doing. Great looking knee lifts here. But Gunther is able to hit a huge shotgun drop kick to get rid of those knee lifts and immediately power bombs the life out of Ricochet. 1, 2, 3. Ricochet then has to hear his own girlfriend scream, "And still champion Gunther." So not a good night for Ricochet. This match lasted about 3 minutes. Maybe it couldn't have been longer than 3 minutes. So yeah, Ricochet got destroyed. I wonder what's next for Gunther. Like, I would prefer Drew McIntyre versus Gunther or something like that. But seemingly they want, like, that could have been your match at Money in the Bank. You didn't need Drew McIntyre in the Money in the Bank ladder match. He could have fought Gunther and maybe I don't know, have Ludwig Kaiser cheat to help Gunther win, and so you're not, so you could still have McIntyre go on the Clash at the Castle and build him up after the loss to Gunther. But maybe that's a match we could get at SummerSlam, because Clash at the Castle is the one where Drew McIntyre wants the title match. So maybe that's a possibility. Other than that, who's Gunther really going to fight? I mean, you've got people like Sheamus and stuff, but he's a heel. And who else is left that's a face on the roster? He's already destroyed Drew Gulak. Who's another face on the roster? Shanky, I guess. Shanky's the newest singles face. So maybe that's our next competitor for Gunther. He's just going to destroy Dancing Shanky. But yeah, I'd much prefer to see Gunther versus Drew McIntyre soon. and they completely just destroyed Ricochet in this match. So Ricochet and Shinsuke both basically got destroyed tonight. So now we're in the back, and Kayla's with Paul Heyman, and Kayla says Paul used his influence, but maybe he just helped Brock out as well by doing what he did. So before Paul can say anything, Sami Zayn comes up. Sami tells Paul that he doesn't have to answer that, and then Sami's mad at Kayla. That she insinuated if Sami won, he would cash in on Roman. Sami says he would never do that, but he would cash in on Brock. And this seems to disgust Paul Heyman, and the segment ends. So Paul Heyman's hard to read here, but I think in general he doesn't like Sami Zayn whatsoever. He's just annoying, this Paul. So then out of nowhere, when we come back, when we go to the ring, Raw's Tamina is in the ring. So again, we've got more shakeups with the women's division. I don't know if this is a full-time thing. Maybe Tamina's completely done with the 24/7 segments and Akira Tozawa, and now she's just going to be a wrestler again. So Tamina's back on SmackDown, at least for one night only. We'll have to see how this plays out. But her and Sonya Deville, both potentially the newest members of the SmackDown roster. And before we go to an ad break, so we've got Tamina in the ring already. He tells us next it'll be Shotzi versus Tamina in the qualifying match for the Money in the Bank. And we go to an ad break. So, okay, again, pause. What? This was scheduled all the way since last week as Shotzi versus Aaliyah. And wouldn't you think if Aaliyah hurt herself or her plane couldn't get off the ground and she missed her flight, like, wouldn't you think that they would have said, oh, this was supposed to be Aaliyah, but she got injured in a training or anything like that? Nope, we don't even hear the word Aaliyah is never mentioned on SmackDown once tonight. You never hear the name Aaliyah once. You just get Tamina in the ring and they tell you, oh, Tamina versus Shotzi's next in the qualifying match. So I don't know what that means. Hopefully Aaliyah's okay physically and mentally and all that. But man, it looks like maybe she's going to get fired, maybe released. I don't know. I don't want to wish that upon anybody. But just the fact that they didn't even say like, oh, Tamina's subbing in for Aaliyah tonight. No, they just acted like this was always supposed to be the plan. So not even a mention of Aaliyah. That can't be good. So potentially, like I said, Sonya Deville and Tamina moving over to SmackDown full time. We'll have to see if that plays out that way. And maybe we've seen the last of Aaliyah. So maybe they added 2 and subtracted 1. Shotzi comes out. The crowd doesn't know what to do. You've got 2 heels, even though Shotzi should be a face. But yeah, and then I write down a whole thing. Well, technically, is Tamina a face? I don't think so, because she was creeping around for like over a month, like doing weird things, stalking the 24/7 title. And I said, well, so was R-Truth, and R-Truth is a face. So wow, I have really no idea if Tamina's a face or a heel. But anyway, Shotzi gets some offense, but Tamina counters a springboard with a big boot. The ref counts to 3 and my heart sinks. I'm like, Tamina just won, but no, Shotzi got her foot under the rope and the ref saw it too late. He had already counted 3, but he says, no, the foot was under the rope. The match continues. So my heart literally dropped because I really wanted Shotzi to not only win this match, but win the briefcase. And I was like, no, not Tamina in the Money in the Bank. No offense to Tamina, but come on. But no, it was just a little mistake or something. Maybe they planned it that way, but I doubt it. Right after that, Shotzi dodges a spear into the corner. So Tamina, in classic big guy or big girl versus little guy or little girl, a spear into the post, into the ring post. So you know what's going to happen next. It's probably going to be the end. Shotzi hits a big DDT and gets a quick win over Tamina. So that's how they always, the WWE always makes sure that if it's a much bigger opponent, that they have to quote unquote take themselves out by hitting the ring post and stuff like that. But either way, I'm glad Shotzi won a match here finally. And like I said, I mapped out the whole thing where you could have Shotzi win the briefcase. She could underhandedly win the title at at the end of Money in the Bank, and then at SummerSlam retain against Ronda by being a complete heel, running away, cheating. Then you have Shotzi fight Ronda straight up when Ronda convinces Shotzi, like, quit running away, don't be a coward, blah, blah, blah. And then they fight one-on-one. You could have Shotzi beat Ronda one-on-one, and there you go. You got a new star and a new baby face that you can ride for the next couple of years. But that's not what we're going to get. We're not going to get that. They don't want to make new stars. So we get a recap of the Viking Raiders heel turn from earlier tonight, and the Viking Raiders are in the back. They say they're tired of waiting. Nobody is safe. And that was basically it. So that was pointless. Then Cole says, I don't think the Viking Raiders are going to be in Max Dupree's male models, but we'll have to see because Max Dupree is getting ready next. And we go to an ad break. So that was pretty funny. Cole had a couple funny lines tonight. When Cole's hanging, Pat McAfee's really rubbing off on Michael Cole personality wise, and Cole's actually pretty funny now. I would love to just have a beer with those two after a Smackdown or something at the bar. So yeah, it's been 2 weeks in a row that we've been teased as Maximum Male Models. First ever client from Max Dupree, which is the former LA Knight, the former Eli Drake. You might know him from other places, but he's a great talker. They made him a manager now instead of a wrestler. He's supposed to be bringing in these male models. The week 1, they said he was stuck in Milan on a flight. Week 2, last week, it was Max Dupree didn't. We got to the point where we saw a spotlight in the ring with all the lights dimmed, and Max Dupree's in the office with Adam Pearce. Last week, he said, "Oh, that entrance wasn't good enough." So this week, we got the entrance with the spotlight, and we hear some modelish music where they're like "Maximum Male Models," and so the entrance was kind of cool looking. But this time, we go to the back. Max Dupree is again in the office and in the face of Adam Pearce, and he says, well, the entrance was better this time, but we didn't get the accoutrements in the locker room that's fitting for male models such as ourselves. And it's not like we were asking for only green M&Ms. We're models, not monsters, which was that is a great line. I hope that is a line they continue to use. We're models, not monsters. Come on. That's a great line. And if you've never seen Max Dupree, he's almost bored. He's one of the most that's like The Rock as far as promos in a long, long time. I know a lot of people back in the day were saying like, "Oh yeah, Ken Kennedy, he's gonna be like the next Rock," and then that kind of fell off like a stone just that sank into the ocean. But um, really, really, really good stuff here from the former LA Knight, the former Eli Drake, now Max. So again, they tease us with this damn thing. We don't know who the male models are, but I'm still really excited to see who's it's going to be. Remember, one people were saying Cesaro might come back to WWE, but it looks like that's not going to happen. It looks like Cesaro's probably going to be the Bryan Danielson replacement at Forbidden Door and Blood and Guts. So not going to be that, but originally it was Mason Mansoor, and nobody wants it to be that. And you could add Mason Mansoor later, but if you're going to have all these weeks after weeks of teasing it, you've got to have that surprise be somebody that somebody knows or somebody that looks impressive, not just Mace or Mansoor that's already on the roster. And nothing against Mace or Mansoor. I hope they do get to join the faction eventually, but they could be like the second and third guys that join after you have somebody big. So Cesaro's off the table. I don't know who else you want to use. You could use Fabian Eichner, who now is Giovanni Vinci. Again, that's not going to be like a huge surprise to the regular crowd, but at least it's not somebody that they've already seen on a regular basis. Like we've already established that Mace and Mansoor are kind of jobbers, so we can build them up through the male models, but we still have to have somebody that we can build it around a centerpiece, and then we could have Mace and Mansoor be the tag team of the group or something like that. So when we come back to the ring, Pat McAfee is standing on a table, and damn, I was truly hoping last week the stuff between Corbin and McAfee wasn't going to lead to a match. But yeah, that's exactly what we're gonna get. And apparently, it seems like WWE doesn't think they can sell out any stadium shows unless they have Brock and Pat McAfee on the card. So that's what we're gonna get at SummerSlam. Both Brock and Pat McAfee on the card again. We get a recap of all the Corbin stuff with Pat last week. And then Pat cuts. To be fair, the promo that Pat McAfee cuts after this recap was amazing. The crowd truly loves him. And honestly, Pat probably has a better chance of beating Roman Reigns right now for the titles than Lashley does. And that sounds preposterous, but it's legitimate if you think about it. So it's weird to think about, but I do truly believe like otherwise they would have had Lashley versus Roman Reigns in the SummerSlam match. That just tells you how much they value Pat and how much they don't value Lashley. So it's not like Pat's fighting Roman, but still they're putting Pat in a big match because it's a stadium show and stuff. So really good promo by Pat here. I didn't write it down word for word because it's kind of crazy, but He challenges Corbin to a match at SummerSlam. And once Pat gets back to the commentary, Cole's like, "Are you sure about that, Pat? You trying to capture lightning in a bottle twice in a row after WrestleMania?" And Pat says, "Oh, hell yeah." So we'll see how that goes. Sheamus's music hits, but his entrance gets interrupted by Drew's music. So Drew does his entrance while Sheamus is still standing there on the ramp, all mad. A really good visual. I like whoever decided to do it that way. And they're going to team against the Usos next. And if they win, they get into Money in the Bank. If they lose, they don't get in Money in the Bank. So, like I was saying earlier, I do not see the point in this. Both outcomes don't make sense. If the Usos win, what was the point of saying Drew and Sheamus are in last week? Just to not have them in it. And then if the Usos lose, you just beat your unbeatable, undisputed tag champions. So I don't like any of this stuff, any of how this went. But before the match can start, the Street Profits come out and they go to commentary. So that makes everything better. Street Profits are amazing on commentary. And we're told that the Usos are at 340 days as SmackDown Tag Champs. Remember, they just got the Raw ones about a month ago. So that one's not a long reign. But those SmackDown ones, almost at a year exactly. And we'll see if they can get to a year. They have a pretty big match here against Street Profits at Money in the Bank next week. So we'll see if the Usos can get through that. But yeah, good start to this match. Sheamus gets the 10 beats of the Baldwin like right away, which was kind of weird. And then Sheamus gets countered. He tries to do the bro kick, but gets countered. And he was trying to mock Drew doing the 1, 2, 3 countdown on that. So Drew's over here. Sheamus over here winding up Drew already. And good stuff. So this pisses off Drew. Drew and Sheamus start brawling with each other on the outside, even though Ridge Holland had already stepped between the two, trying to get them to stop. But they're brawling as we go to an ad break. So we come back, and Sheamus is in the ring. He's the legal man. And Jimmy makes a blind tag to take control. So whatever the brawl that Sheamus and Drew were doing, it finished with. But we find out later that during that brawl, Ridge Holland and Butch got ejected from the scene. So I don't know why they would have been ejected for that. But Butch and Ridge Holland are gone. Pat asks Montez on who's on, remember the Street Profits are on commentary. So Pat asks Montez, so what's in the red cup? And Ted starts singing everything, everything. It was just really, really good. The crowd cheers for the Usos. The crowd's just cheering for the Usos when it's Sheamus in the ring, which isn't necessarily a good thing because I know the Usos have been doing their best to try and be heels. But now you've got them in the ring with Sheamus, who nobody likes. So the crowd is just forced to cheer for the Usos because they like them better than Sheamus. We get a nasty bro kick to counter a corner hip attack. So Jimmy was trying to do that the Umaga hip attack, but Sheamus gets right up and hits the bro kick. That was amazing. Sheamus is able to get the Drew on this, to get the tag out. The crowd erupts. Drew takes out both Usos, but Jay shoves Drew into the ring post. So again, remember what I said about big opponents earlier with Tamina hitting the ring post? So we get an Uso splash, hits Drew, but he gets saved by Sheamus. Butch and Ridge now run back down, and this is where I read. Apparently, they were ejected during the ad break. Sami Zayn now comes through the crowd, and he tries to do something. We have no idea what he was going to try to do because all of a sudden Angelo Dawkins leaps up out of his announcing position and does like the huge pounce tackle to Sami Zayn, sending Zayn in the orbit. Really good spot there. And like I said, we don't know what Sami Zayn was about to do. Angelo Dawkins just takes him out right away. So Drew then does a tope con hero on the everyone. Big Drew doing a tope con hero. That was a pretty crazy move. And I'm pretty sure whoever he landed on directly is going to feel that in the morning. Drew then tries to hit a Claymore. But Jimmy dodges it. But Drew comes right back and hits another Claymore. 1, 2, 3. Drew and Sheamus are apparently going to be your new number one contenders for the tag team titles. No one ever mentioned that, but still, that's the whole point. Why are we beating the Usos here? Why did we just beat the Usos, who we've built up as these unbeatable champions, so that somebody can eventually beat them for the tag titles? And now we just got a team that hates each other and was literally brawling with each other as we go to commercial break. Sheamus and Drew just beat them. So are you telling me Drew can just beat the tag team champions by himself? Is that what you're trying to tell me? Or that Sheamus can beat the tag team champions by himself? I know they teamed up a little bit as far as they were both on the same side, but come on, man. the whole thing since last week with the neither of you qualified, so because of that, you're both qualified, leading all the way up to this, making the Usos lose to a non-tag team who can't even get along. None of it was good. What was the point of this 2-week story? Maybe it'll be a 3-week story concluding next week, but man, it's terrible. It's really, really terrible. But yeah, anyway, other than my gripe with the Drew McIntyre and Sheamus stuff, much improved SmackDown over last week, and that makes 2 decent SmackDowns out of the last 3 weeks. But if you want to look at it, yeah, we've had 2 decent SmackDowns out of the last 3 weeks now. I would say there was only about 4 decent SmackDowns in the previous 8 months. That's how bad SmackDown was before that. So the fact that I hated last week's SmackDown, by the way, but the SmackDown before that was really, really good. Remember, like that Shotzi and Ronda Rousey match was surprisingly good, and there was a couple other really good matches. So overall, thumbs up from me. That's 2 weeks out of 3. That's SmackDown's been better. And like I said, there was only about 4 good episodes in the last 8 months. So that's much improved. I'll be back in a little bit with the NXT Level Up and AEW Rampage reviews. And I'll also be here for Forbidden Door over the weekend. So if I don't catch you then, I'll see you for the Raw review on Monday. So thanks for tuning in, and I'll talk to you next time. Peace.